And then this is the drug overdose problem that we have. So 1999, this doesn't go all the way back to the 1970s, but it does. This is just another bell curve. And here, this bell curve is drug overdose deaths among all ages, male and female here are split up, but you can see the blue chart is everybody. 16,000 versus 70,000 in the last 20 years. That's too many, man.
Yeah, that's
people are really dying. When I talked to my Uber driver, I had this data of, this basis of research that I've done to argue with him. And I was like, well, man, I understand the fear of, everybody running around doing drugs and it being a big problem for society. But let's talk a little bit about Portugal. Portugal decriminalized drugs in 2001 because it was such a huge problem for them. In the 1970s, I think in the year 1970, this guy named Salazar died. He was their dictator. And, he was outlawing things like cigarettes if you didn't have a permit and shit like that. He was a little overbearing. Imagine like a really, really overbearing dad, and then you go to college, right? So that's what happened in Portugal. And all these kids were like, whoa, drugs are great. Let's do the drugs. And 1 in 10 people developed a heroin problem. So we're not talking about just the poor, just the, disenfranchised, the criminals that we have running around in the bad neighborhoods and the bad people. No, it was the doctors, it was the lawyers, it was judges, it was everybody had a heroin problem and people from it. So in 1999 here, you can see that there was 369 overdose deaths, and they have a significantly smaller population than us. But this is, their raw data is they went from 369 down to 30 in overdoses. So that's a reduction of 97%. And then HIV diagnosis due to injecting went from 900 to 20. So we're literally giving the population AIDS, hepatitis, and other things from injectable drugs by making them illegal. If we come up with Portugal's solution, which was admittedly a little bit radical compared to what we have going on right now, but that ballooning population isn't going, it's not like you saw that bell curve going down, it's going up, and the overdose deaths are going up. So, our population in America has a lot more hepatitis and a lot more AIDS in it, and it would go down dramatically. We're talking what 18 divided by 907 minus 100, we're talking a 99.9% drop in new HIV due to injectable drugs.
Medicine is part of Scott Ford's daily drill.
So each night I take Prescobix.
He showed us doctor visit paperwork that says he lives with HIV. He got that diagnosis, he says, when he was just a teenager.
It was the scariest day of my life. I had a lot of time to think. If I had to do all over again, I would have made a lot different choices.
Scott says his risk factors included unprotected sex and needle drug use. When he hears the latter is playing into a recent spike in HIV cases here in the tri-state, it really bothers him.
Why does it trouble you?
I don't want to see someone my age go through what I went through. The numbers shouldn't be where they are. We should be seeing a reverse in numbers.
Health experts agree. They say they're trying to stop the trend in its tracks. Listen in on this news conference from earlier today in northern Kentucky.
Our efforts right now are focused on finding folks who may be at risk, getting those folks tested. One of the things that we talk about in public health is that treatment is prevention for HIV. So the more folks we can get into treatment and on medication to manage their HIV, the less likely it is that the disease is going to spread.
And speaking from his own personal experience, Scott has this message.
If you are an active drug user, if you are involved in the party scene, hit that reset button and take control of your life.
That's a compelling number for sure.
Right.
I mean,
and this is put out, the Lancet drug policy.org. This isn't shit I'm pulling out of my ass. This is other people's research. Like, everything that I pulled through here is a scientific study. The number of people incarcerated for drug offenses went down by 1/3 or 2/3. So they went from 3,800 to 1,100. So they still think, or they still have like problems with drug traffickers. But, you know, even delving into a little bit of that research, I ran across some thought experiments that were saying if these people weren't so poor and there were other opportunities, like let's say in Peru or Bolivia or these kind of countries where cocaine production is rampant, like coca plants are worth something, what else are you going to do? There's no education, there's no infrastructure, there's nothing other than the drug war, because the United States and the international community comes in there and they bomb everybody and they decimate their society. And the only way to make a ton of money today to support your family is to sell drugs, to become a cocaine trafficker or a narco. And so they do it, and their whole family's involved in it. And what are you going to do given those kind of opportunities where you have nothing? You could either be completely broke on one hand and honest. On the other hand, you can have a lot of money and, you know, women, drugs, whatever it is that you want. And so the appeal to be a drug trafficker is there. So the only way to take that appeal away is to legalize it. So if you don't want these guys, if your real goal is that you don't want these guys selling drugs or you don't want these guys doing drugs, then legalize it. Because that's the only thing that works, because they're not going to listen to you. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, whether or not you make it illegal. And if you think about a truly free society, there's a concept called self-determination, where if you want to put Coca-Cola in your body and you're fat, it's not my position to tell you that you're not allowed to do that because it's bad for you. And if you want heroin in your body, well, in Portugal, they'll give you heroin, they'll give you a syringe, and they'll let you shoot it up. And it costs society significantly less to provide that drug for them than it does for them to get it on the streets, create a black market, and criminally prosecute and persecute everybody that's doing it.
They regulate it though, right? They like regulate it through like the medical industry and.
Yeah, they got doctors there, nurses, they got psychiatrists for you to talk to, a psychologist for you to talk to, a social worker. And the biggest thing these harm reduction places provide is a community. Because a lot of these people that have these problems, they aren't coming from good backgrounds where their parents were loving and giving them money when they graduated college. No, they were coming from a background where they had nothing. And sometimes these facilities are the only family that they have. And so you continue to come back, and then eventually they get better. But I was talking to my government professor about this, and he was saying, well, what about, you know, okay, we'll let you go to rehab, but if you screw up, then you're going to jail. I was like, well, again, that makes sense intuitively. However, no, that's not what they've done. That's not what the healthcare workers in Portugal are saying has been successful. The healthcare workers, the doctors, their drugs are over there. What has been successful has been embracing failure. How many people do you know that want to lose weight?
I know a lot of people.
Yeah, I've worked with tons of people. I'm a career fitness manager, personal trainer, small gym owner. Obesity keeps me in business. So I expect my clients to fail. And I let them know that when you fail along this path, and I don't ever tell them if, I tell them when, it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be whatever. And we're going to on and we're going to learn from those lessons. But what really works is digging down deep and figuring out what the source of pain is. Why is it that you're killing yourself through food? You can't stop. And usually there's some sort of psychological underlying issue that we need to address. And that's what they're addressing at these harm reduction facilities. So what you see on the surface is, oh, they're fucking shooting these demons up. You know, these criminals, they're just giving them the fucking drugs to be the bad people. And it's like, no, we're giving them a place where we address the individual problem, the underlying root cause of their drug addiction. And you know what? It's been successful. So I don't really give a shit which way we go. If criminalization is successful, cool, let's do it. And if criminalization is not successful, then let's not do it. And this right here demonstrates what's successful.
was a correctional officer at the Maryland Pen, and that's when my disease started. It's a stressful place, and a lot of the correctional officers there used. I wasn't even thinking normal. I had to use because I got to go to work, and I realized that I was sick. My mother was an open person, so she told the family, you know, Joy is sick, so we have to support her. Now I realize the stress I put them under for them to see me that way. But when you're caught up in a disease, you can't see nothing but your pain.